Jiang Chengxian accidentally transmigrated to the immortal cultivation world and accidentally obtained the immortal cultivation heritage. However, his qualifications were really low, and after 100 years of hard work, he was still unable to advance to the foundation establishment realm. Just when he was discouraged, he came to a mortal city in silence, ready to end his life. That was when he got the long-awaited cheats. Detected that their host has achieved 100 years of immortal cultivation, hereby granting a life extension fruit, which can increase the life expectancy by 1 year. The next achievement task was now issued. Please complete the quest 100 times. Complete it to achieve the honor of completing the quest 100 times, and you can get a chance to complete the quest smoothly. Ding! Please complete 100 times of technique practice, and achieve it to obtain a sense of perfection in technique inheritance Jade Talisman. Please complete 100 times of energy training to enhance the foundation bone. Please complete 100 times of talisman making achievements. Please complete 100 times of enlightenment achievement. Please complete 100 times of alchemy achievement. Please complete 100 times of poisoning achievement. Please. Unknowingly, when Jiang Chengxian heard the system's prompt again, he was told that there were no more achievements worthy of him to complete, because his existence itself was already an achievement that could never be surpassed. Let's settle down here. An old man with white hair and a hunched back appeared in a rather prosperous city. This was Autumn Leaf City under the jurisdiction of Heian County. It was the city with the best environment among the several mortal cities under Heian County. It was also one of the most artistic cities. The old man, Jiang Chengxian, looked at the enormous mansion in front of him and suddenly sighed softly. From now on, let me stay and slowly die here. While he was thinking, Jiang Chengxian had already walked into the mansion. There were no servants or maids. Before Jiang Chengxian bought this house, he had already made it clear to the owner that he didn't want anyone to serve him. It was also his own request. Since he only had a year or two left to live, Jiang Chengxian only wanted to finish this journey quietly and not be disturbed by anyone. Yes, Jiang Chengxian was not an ordinary person. Instead, he was a true cultivator. 100 years ago, due to an accident, he transmigrated to this place called the Nine Essences Immortal Cultivation World. By chance, he obtained the cultivation inheritance of a Qi refinement cultivator. He originally thought that he could start his cultivation journey smoothly and become an immortal. He thought that there would be all kinds of treasures and beauties surrounding him. Unexpectedly, reality played a big joke on him. There was no system to help him, nor were there any artifacts. Most importantly, his cultivation aptitude was the lowest grade, the false spiritual roots. The speed of his cultivation was like a snail crawling. In addition, he was a person who was afraid of death and did not dare to confront others, let alone compete with others for opportunities. Therefore, after 100 years, his cultivation level had only reached the 8th level of Qi refinement. He had not even reached the 9th level of Qi refinement, which was the perfected realm of Qi refinement. Most importantly, the reason why he could have reached the 8th level of Qi refinement was because he was lucky and obtained an opportunity for no reason. If not for that, he would probably still be at the 4th or 5th level of Qi refinement. One could imagine that with him like this, not to mention breaking through to the foundation establishment realm, the Violet Palace realm, and the Golden Core realm, even before his death, it was impossible for him to break through to the 9th level of Qi refinement. Therefore, Jiang Chengxian did not have ambitions for anything else now. He just wanted to spend the last year or two in peace. After walking around the entire mansion, Jiang Chengxian chose the largest room in the middle courtyard as his bedroom. Just like that, Jiang Chengxian lived in this mansion for half a year. On this day, he suddenly felt his body weaken. Then, the qi and blood in his body began to dry up. The true essence in his body also began to quickly deplete, until it was like that of a dry river. Compared to before, he was noticeably emaciated and hunched. Every step he took seemed to consume a lot of his strength. He couldn't help but sigh with a shake of his head. With his current condition, not to mention living for another year or two, he might not even be able to live to see the sun rising tomorrow. Sigh. Forget it. No matter what, I had lived for more than 100 years. Compared to those who died before the age of 50, he was much luckier. He really could not ask for more. Just as Jiang Chengxian was comforting himself and was about to wait quietly for his life to end, a robotic electronic voice suddenly sounded in his mind. Ding! Detected that their host has achieved 100 years of cultivation. The achievement system is therefore activated. What? Jiang Chengxian was stunned. Was he hallucinating? Or was it really the system daddy? In an instant, Jiang Chengxian had a mixed feeling that he couldn't describe. As an cultivator at the 8th level of Qi refinement, he was actually certain that their voice just now was not an hallucination, but a real system notification. But so what? He was about to die anyway. Even if the cheat system came, he wouldn't have the luck to use it. After all, he had clearly heard just now that the system that was activated was not a sign-in system or a lottery system, but an achievement system. As the name suggested, if he wanted to obtain anything from the system, he had to achieve something. Just like what the system said just now about 100 years of cultivation achievement. He achieved it and accidentally activated the system. What about the reward? What is the use of activating you if you don't give me a reward? Ding! As if hearing Jiang Qingshuan's thoughts, a system notification sounded in his mind again. Detected that their host has achieved 100 years of cultivation. You are specially rewarded with a life-extending fruit. Consume it to increase your lifespan by 60 years. F***ck. Jiang Chengxian burst out cursing uncontrollably. There was really a reward. Moreover, it was an item that he urgently needed to extend his life. What was more, it could extend his lifespan by 60 years. Hurry up, where is the life-extending fruit? Jiang Chengxian quickly called out to the system in his mind. This was because at this moment, he could clearly feel his life force flowing away. Death was approaching bit by bit. If this happened in the past, he wouldn't be anxious. Anyway, there was no hope. If he died, so be it. However, it was different now. If he died as soon as he found new hope, it would be too tragic. After all, if there was a way to live, who would want to die? Just as he was feeling anxious, Jiang Chengxian saw an orange fruit suddenly appear in his hand. Then, a string of words appeared in his mind. Life-extending fruit. Eating it can increase one's lifespan by 60 years. It's also one of the main ingredients for refining life-extending pills. At this moment, Jiang Chengxian couldn't care less about refining pills. He was about to die. It would be really stupid to think about those useless things. Therefore, without wasting a second, he finished the fruit in a few mouthfuls. Boom! In an instant, Jiang Chengxian felt a new vitality suddenly replenishing his crumbling body. This vitality was extremely abundant. In just an instant, it covered his entire body, making his hunched body straight again. His white hair turned black again. His face emitted a healthy glow. In just a moment, Jiang Chengxian went from an old and weak old man to a middle-aged man in his 40s or 50s. The life force that he lost also came back, fresh and new. With this body, if Jiang Chengxian had the cultivation of the perfected Qi refinement realm, he could absolutely try to break through to the foundation establishment realm. Unfortunately, he was not there yet. However, no matter what, to Jiang Chengxian, being able to regain 60 years of life was already a lot. Most importantly, now, he had a cheat system to fall back on. Chapter 2, 100 Missions. After a while, Jiang Chengxian more or less understood the function of his achievement system. Simply put, this was a system that would issue missions for him to achieve at irregular intervals. As long as he can complete the mission issued by the system, he can obtain the corresponding system reward. His next mission was to attempt to break through 100 times. With every attempt, 1 point would be added to the progress of the mission. However, the problem was that if he succeeded in breaking through the cultivation bottleneck, it would be great, but if he failed, it would more or less cause some damage to his body. It would take a lot of time to repair it. If the damage was especially serious, he even needed to take healing pills to repair it. Luckily, it was a small bottleneck. If it was a big bottleneck, such as breaking through to the Foundation Establishment realm and the Violet Palace realm, once he failed, he would not just suffer some minor damage. In the worst scenario, he might die. Throughout history, many cultivators had died because of this. Fortunately, his cultivation was still at the 8th level of Qi refinement. If he failed to break through to the 9th level of Qi refinement during the attempts, the price was still within his ability to bear. Most importantly, the system seemed to have included his past attempts. Therefore, although he had not done anything yet, the progress of this mission had already reached 34%. In other words, he only needed to attempt to break through 66 more times to complete this mission. However, the problem was that there was no need to break through so many times in order to reach the 9th level. No matter how poor his talent was, as long as he was willing to spend time and effort, he could successfully break through within 6 attempts. No matter what, 10 times should be enough, right? However, that was the problem. What about the remaining 50 or so attempts? He couldn't wait until he reached the 9th level of Qi refinement to break through to the Foundation Establishment realm. Right, that would kill him. At least as far Jiang Chengxian knew, he had never heard of anyone who could survive after failing to break through to the Foundation Establishment realm. Unless you had a Foundation Establishment pill that Qi refinement cultivators dreamed of. Not only could the pill increase your chances of reaching the Foundation Establishment realm by 50%, but it could also protect your meridians and prevent you from vanishing even if you failed. At most, they would lose some vitality. They only needed to recuperate for a few days to recover. However, how could an extremely precious pill like the Foundation Establishment pill be easily obtained by a mere Qi refinement cultivator like him? Therefore, according to Jiang Qingshuan's current situation, if he wanted to complete the mission issued by the system, he had to do it before he broke through to the 9th level of Qi refinement. Otherwise, he might not be able to complete this mission forever. At the thought of this, Jiang Chengxian went to his bedroom and sat cross-legged. He found a comfortable position and slowly circulated the origin returning technique he was currently cultivating. This was also a very common cultivation technique. It could be said to be ordinary and nothing special. The only thing worth mentioning was that the initiation of this cultivation technique was very simple. No matter what kind of spiritual roots or aptitude one had, they could cultivate this cultivation technique without any repulsion to the attributes of their spiritual root. At this moment, Jiang Chengxian had already circulated the origin returning technique for a few cycles. At this moment, Jiang Chengxian suddenly began to gently circulate circulate his true essence, giving the bottleneck of the 9th level of chi refinement a gentle attempt. It was really just a gentle one. It was not even a tenth of his full strength. As expected, the bottleneck was still there. As for Jiang Chengxian, he only suffered a small backlash. There was a faint pain in a few meridians. However, he only needed to recuperate for a day or two to completely recover from such an injury. This was not the point. The point was the attempt number. The number in front of his retina changed from 34% to 35%. It really worked. It seemed that his previous guess was right. The system only cared about the attempt number. It did not care if one was going all out to break through or not. As long as you made an attempt, it was fine. This was really great. In this way, he could use this bug to complete the next 65 attempts. Yes, although that would cause some damage to his meridians. However, as long as he recuperated well and lengthened the interval of the attempt, there shouldn't be too much of a problem. Just like that, for the next year, Jiang Chengxian stayed in his mansion. Every 5 days, he would make an attempt to break through the bottleneck to the 9th level of chi refinement. This was also the most suitable interval he found after summarizing the previous attempts. 5 days was not too long, and the impact on his recovery was almost zero. Ding! At this moment, when Jiang Chengxian saw that the progress of the mission in his retina had reached 100%, the long-lost system notification appeared in his mind again. Congratulations, host, for achieving 100 breakthrough attempts. You are rewarded with a chance to successfully break through. One chance to successfully break through. What the F***? Holy crap! Jiang Chengxian really did not expect to receive such a precious reward after completing the mission issued by the system. Didn't this mean that he could use this opportunity to successfully break through to the Foundation establishment realm in one go? If that was the case, he didn't have to be a cultivator in the bottom of the Cultivation Society. No matter what, Foundation establishment cultivators were the backbone of many cultivation sects. No matter where they went, they would be treated with respect. Even if you were an independent cultivator, it was no exception. Many cultivation families were supported by a Foundation establishment cultivator. Now that he had hope of reaching that level, how could he not be excited? At this moment, Jiang Chengxian couldn't help but look forward to the system's next achievement mission. The system did not disappoint him. Just as he was thinking, the familiar electronic voice sounded again. Ding! The next achievement mission. Host, please complete 100 spell castings. Chapter 3. Someone came to the cave abode in the Ganyang market. 100 spell castings. Jiang Chengxian was stunned for a moment before he was overwhelmed by the anticipation for the reward. After all, with the rewards from the previous 2 missions, it was very difficult for Jiang Chengxian not to be tempted by the rewards from the later missions. However, it was obviously not appropriate for him to continue staying in this mortal city if he wanted to complete this mission. After all, casting spells was different from attempting to break through where he could stay in one place and not move. Even if he went to the nearby wilderness or forest, it was inevitable that he would be seen, which would affect the progress. It seemed that it was time for him to leave this place. At the thought of this, Jiang Chengxian no longer hesitated. That night, he left Autumn Leaf City. A few months later, in a forest far away from Ganyang Market, Jiang Chengxian cast a spell called the Flaming Saber on a big tree in front of him. In an instant, the tree was split into 2. Then, raging flames ignited all the vegetation for a few meters. Ding! At this moment, a system notification suddenly sounded in Jiang Chengxian's mind. Congratulations, host. You have completed the mission of 100 spell castings. You are rewarded with a Perfection Spell Inheritance Jade. Perfection Spell Inheritance Jade. After using it, it can instantly allow the host to reach perfection in a certain spell. Note, this spell can't exceed the limit of the host's current realm. In other words, the spell he chose had to be something he could really control. The spells he could really control now were all within level 1 high grade. In other words, if he used the Jade now, he could at most master a level 1 high grade spell to perfection. However, if he could break through to the Foundation establishment realm, he would undoubtedly have more choices. A level 2 high grade spell might be a little difficult to control. However, low grade or even mid grade level 2 would definitely not be a problem. At that time, with a perfected level 2 spell, even if he had just entered the Foundation establishment realm, he could quickly gain a foothold in that realm. He had to think of a way to break through as soon as possible. As Jiang Chengxian thought, he returned to his cave abode in the Ganyang market. This was a cave abode he had rented a few months ago. The price was not cheap. It cost a total of 3 spirit stones to rent every month. This was already considered relatively expensive among many low-level cave abodes. Fortunately, the spiritual energy in this cave abode was quite abundant. At least for Jiang Chengxian, a cultivator at the 8th level of chi refinement, it was enough to satisfy his daily cultivation needs. At this moment, not long after Jiang Chengxian returned to his cave abode, he suddenly felt the restriction on his cave abode being activated. Through the light reflected by the restriction, Jiang Chengxian realized that 2 people were standing outside his cave abode. They were a man and a woman who looked about 40 years old. Jiang Chengxian recognized at a glance that the 2 people who were outside his cave abode were the couple he had gotten to know in the Ganyang market recently, who were independent cultivators. The man's name was Xu Haichuan. Like him, his cultivation was at the 8th level of qi refinement. The woman was called Mai Hongyang, and she was at the 7th level of qi refinement. He wondered why they came to his cave abode. Jiang Chengxian was a little suspicious, but he still went forward and lifted the restriction. Fellow Daoist Jiang, you're finally back. As soon as the restriction on the cave abode was lifted by Jiang Chengxian, the middle-aged man, Xu Haichuan, spoke. After he brought Xu Haichuan and his wife into the cave abode, he asked Xu Haichuan, "Fellow Daoist Xu, what brought you here to look for me?" Xu Haichuan and Mai Hongyang looked at each other. Xu Haichuan nodded and said, "Fellow Daoist Jiang, actually, we came this time to invite you to explore a ruin with us." "Invite me to explore a ruin?" Hearing Xu Haichuan's words, Jiang Chengxian immediately frowned slightly. Having been in the cultivation world for 100 years, he was not a noob cultivator. He knew very well what kind of place the so-called ruins were. It was not an exaggeration to say that a place like the ruins was not a place for cultivators like them to set foot in. Even if a qi refinement cultivator had a heaven-sent opportunity and discovered a cave abode left behind by a high-level cultivator, he would definitely not share it with others. After all, opportunities like this were tempting. No one could guarantee that their companion would not stab them in the back after seeing the opportunity or fall out with them and fight for the opportunity. Jiang Chengxian had heard of such anecdotes dozens of times in the past 100 years. Therefore, he was not interested in Xu Haichuan and his wife's invitation. As if he had guessed that Jiang Chengxian would decline, Xu Haichuan spoke. "Fellow Daoist Jiang, do you think there's something fishy about us inviting you to explore a ruin with us?" Without waiting for Jiang Chengxian to answer, Xu Haichuan explained. "To be honest, the ruin we mentioned was actually not discovered by us alone. We're not the only ones who know about that ruin." Xu Haichuan roughly told Jiang Chengxian about the situation in the ruin. It turned out, the ruin that Xu Haichuan and his wife were talking about was actually a ruin discovered by the Ganyarn sect not long ago. The Ganyarn sect was one of the 3 top cultivation sects in the Yun nation. There was a golden core Daoist presiding in the sect. He was the true overlord of the Ganyarn mountain range. He was also the true owner of the Ganyarn market where they were now. According to Xu Haichuan and his wife, the ruin discovered by the Ganyarn sect seemed to have been set up with a very brilliant restriction that only allowed qi refinement and foundation establishment cultivators to enter. Once a person in the Violet Palace realm wanted to enter, they would be sent flying back by the restriction hidden in the ruin. If they forced their way in, they might cause the ruin to self-destruct. The loss outweighed the gain. They did not want to alarm the golden core Daoist in their sect because of that restriction, so someone thought of using independent cultivators like them to help explore that ruin. This way, not only could they greatly speed up the exploration of the ruin, but they could also reduce the number of casualties that might occur among the disciples of the Ganyarn sect, especially when the Ganyarn sect promised all the independent cultivators that as long as they were willing to enter that ruin to explore, they would be able to keep 10% of the gains when they came out. This made many independent cultivators tempted. Chapter 4: Breaking through to the 9th level of qi refinement. Although the reward of keeping 10% of the gain seemed to be very little, in fact, the Ganyarn sect was already very kind. Many sects like the Ganyarn sect would not allow you to keep anything at all. At most, they would give you some spirit stones or basic pills. Moreover, with the influence of the Ganyarn sect in the Ganyarn mountain range, if they wanted you to enter the ruin, you could not say no. Moreover, according to the latest news, there were already qi refinement cultivators who used the treasures they obtained from the ruin to successfully exchange for a foundation establishment pill from the Ganyarn sect. Wasn't the ultimate goal of these independent cultivators at the refinement stage to fight to the death for that trace of hope of breaking through to the foundation establishment realm? Therefore, at this moment, Xu Haichuan and his wife were really trying their best to persuade Jiang Chengxian to go to the ruin with them to explore. However, all this was not attractive to Jiang Chengxian at all. Now, he had already obtained a chance to successfully break through from the system. As long as his cultivation broke through to the 9th level of qi refinement, breaking through to the foundation establishment realm was just a piece of cake. Why would he take such a huge risk to go to the so-called ruin? Moreover, in Jiang Qingxuan's eyes, no matter how tempting the ruin was, they, the lowest-ranking qi refinement cultivators, could not escape the fate of becoming cannon fodder. Even if you really had heaven-defying luck and obtained some extraordinary treasure in that ruin, in the end, that treasure might not belong to you. The Ganyarn sect would definitely not let the real treasure in the ruin fall into the hands of low-level independent cultivators like them. It was very likely that they would be killed because of this. At this moment, no matter what Xu Haichuan and his wife said, Jiang Chengxian was not tempted. Helpless, Xu Haichuan and his wife could only leave regretfully. Husband, Jiang Chengxian is stubborn and refuses to explore that ruin with us. What should we do now? Outside Jiang Qingxuan's cave abode, Mai Hongyang turned to look at her husband, Xu Haichuan, with a slightly unhappy expression. Xu Haichuan sighed helplessly and shook his head. Since fellow Daoist Jiang doesn't want to go with us, then forget it. But next, we have to find someone else. After all, just you and me going to that ruin is not enough. As the couple spoke, they they walked in another direction of the market. After sending Xu Haichuan and his wife off, a system notification suddenly sounded in Jiang Qingxuan's mind. Ding! Announcement of the next achievement mission. Host, please complete 100 circulations. Note, previous circulations are not included in this mission. That made sense. He had cultivated for well over 100 years. If previous circulations were included, he would have done it more than 300 times. The system obviously wouldn't make such an obvious mistake. However, speaking of which, the mission issued by the system happened to meet his current needs. He could use this opportunity to enter seclusion and cultivate. He wanted to raise his cultivation to the 9th level of Qi refinement. However, before that, he had to prepare and buy a pill for him to break through to the 9th level of Qi refinement. In the Cloud Pavilion, this was considered the largest shop in the Ganyang market that sold pills and artifacts. It was said that the owner of it was the Ganyang sect. Although the things sold here were not cheap because they were of good quality, many family cultivators and independent cultivators liked to come here to buy things. When Jiang Chengxian arrived, he realized that there were especially many people in the Cloud Pavilion today. With a cursory glance, he realized that most of the people here were independent cultivators like him. After thinking for a moment, Jiang Chengxian roughly understood what was going on. It should be related to that ruin. Everyone must be thinking of buying as many life-saving tools as possible before entering the ruin to explore. Fellow Daoist, are you here to buy artifacts or talismans? At this moment, a sweet-looking female cultivator at the 5th level of Qi refinement suddenly approached Jiang Chengxian. From the clothes she was wearing, it was obvious that she was from the Cloud Pavilion. Jiang Chengxian shook his head and told this female cultivator what he needed. When the female cultivator heard it, she immediately brought him to the area where pills were sold. Then, she took out a jade bottle and handed it to Jiang Chengxian with a smile. Fellow Daoist, this is the spirit cleansing pill you are looking for. It can help a late-stage Qi refinement cultivator break through. This will cost 100 spirit stones. Jiang Chengxian took the jade bottle and opened it to take a look. He realized that the quality of this spirit cleansing pill was indeed not bad. Over the years, Jiang Chengxian had accumulated some money. Although it was by no means a lot, spending 100 spirit stones to buy a spirit cleansing pill was not a problem for him. Soon, Jiang Chengxian paid the spirit stones. When he returned to his cave abode, he began his seclusion. Going from the 8th to the 9th level of Qi refinement realm was actually a process of accumulation and refining. As long as you accumulated a certain amount of true essence in your body, you could try to break through to the 9th level of Qi refinement. As for refining, it could make your true essence more condensed. However, it took a lot of time to accumulate and refine the true essence in his body to the point where he could break through to the 9th level of Qi refinement. Under normal circumstances, a cultivator at the 8th level of Qi refinement with true spiritual roots would take a total of 8 to 15 years. Given that Jiang Chengxian only had false spiritual roots, it would undoubtedly take him a longer time. Fortunately, Jiang Chengxian had stagnated in this realm for a long time. His accumulation was basically enough. Coupled with the spirit cleansing pill, he was confident that his breakthrough would go smoothly. Soon, Jiang Chengxian had adjusted himself to the optimal state. When he took out the spirit cleansing pill he bought, the amount of true essence in his body suddenly soared. Without hesitation, Jiang Chengxian quickly circulated the origin returning technique he had cultivated and began to circulate it over and over again. Just like that, half a month later, Jiang Chengxian, who was immersed in seclusion, suddenly opened his eyes. A smile appeared on his face. The 9th level of Qi refinement was finally achieved. At this moment, the amount of true essence in his body was almost 40% more than before. His strength had also increased significantly. He looked at the number in his retina. Progress of the mission, 15%. Chapter 5, Purchasing Talisman Making Materials. In half a month, he only managed to complete 15% of the mission. It seemed that it would take some time to reach 100%. It just so happened that he had just broken through to the 9th level of Qi refinement and still needed to consolidate his realm. Therefore, Jiang Chengxian continued his seclusion. He was not afraid of being disturbed. This was because before he went into seclusion, he had already paid the rent for the cave abode for a year. At the same time, he activated the protective array of the cave abode. His intention of not wanting to be disturbed was very clear. If anyone still came to disturb him for no reason at this moment, they would definitely become enemies. Just like that, more than half a year had passed. When Jiang Chengxian ended his seclusion, he had already consolidated the 9th level of Qi refinement. Looking at his mission progress, it was 100% completed. Congratulations, host. You have completed 100 circulations. You have received +1 constitution. +1 constitution. Jiang Chengxian was a little surprised. He did not expect the reward this time to actually increase his constitution. This was really unexpected. As everyone knew, in the cultivation world, there were two things that were very difficult to change. One was comprehension, and the other was constitution. Jiang Chengxian tried to sense the changes in his body and realized that his spiritual root had not changed at all. It was still false spiritual roots of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. Why don't I try to cultivate? With that in mind, Jiang Chengxian started to circulate the origin returning technique again. A few days later, Jiang Chengxian opened his eyes. He was a little excited. As expected, the system was not fooling him. At this moment, his circulation speed was obviously 20% faster than before. At the same time, the spiritual qi he could absorb in one cycle was 20% more than before. With the two of them combined, Jiang Chengxian's cultivation speed was noticeably faster than before. And this was only the effect of having slightly increased his constitution. He really could not imagine those genius cultivators, especially the ones with the legendary heavenly spiritual root. How fast was their cultivation speed? No wonder the various cultivation sects and families valued those disciples with good cultivation aptitude. That difference was really not something that could be bridged with hard work. Fortunately, I have System Daddy around. No matter how big the gap was, he would sooner or later be able to level up and catch up with the others. At the thought of this, Jiang Chengxian couldn't help but look forward to the next mission. However, 2 hours passed, 4 hours passed, a day passed, and 2 days passed. The system did not issue another mission. This made Jiang Chengxian a little anxious. Fortunately, he still remembered the system's initial introduction. This system will issue missions at irregular intervals. He just did not know how long he would have to wait. He hoped it wouldn't be too long. At the thought of this, Jiang Chengxian did not intend to stay in the cave abode anymore. Instead, he planned to go out and buy some materials for making talismans. In the past, Jiang Chengxian was a mid-grade level 1 talisman craftsman. This was also the only skill he had back then. It was also the means by which he supported himself financially to reach the 8th level of qi refinement. Now, although the spirit stones he had accumulated could still last him for a while, it was far from enough to support him until he reached the perfected stage of the 9th level of qi refinement. Therefore, he needed to sell talismans to make his pocket fuller. At the same time, he wanted to see if anything new had happened in the past 6 months. When he came out, Jiang Chengxian immediately realized that there seemed to be a lot more people in the Ganyang market than half a year ago. After asking around, it turned out that the reason why there were more people in the Ganyang market now was because of that ruin. It was said that not long ago, another qi refinement cultivator successfully joined the Ganyang sect through the treasures he obtained from the ruin. Moreover, he became an inner disciple and successfully shook off his identity as an independent cultivator. In addition, many people had obtained a lot of cultivation resources from that ruin. This immediately attracted independent cultivators from everywhere. The Ganyang market naturally became a place for these independent cultivators to gather and rest. Jiang Chengxian arrived at a shop called the Treasure Pavilion. Immediately, a middle-aged man in his 40s came over and asked Jiang Chengxian enthusiastically what he wanted. The Treasure Pavilion was not as famous as the Cloud Pavilion. There were not as many things sold in the Treasure Pavilion. However, the advantage was that the things here were cheaper than the ones in the Cloud Pavilion. What Jiang Chengxian wanted were some low-grade talisman-making materials. Naturally, there was no need to be particular about the quality. Soon, the middle-aged man brought over the things Jiang Chengxian wanted. It cost him a total of 32 spirit stones. If he shopped in the Cloud Pavilion, the price was at least 4 or 5 times more expensive. Although 4 or 5 spirit stones did not seem to be a lot, it was still a lot for low-level qi refinement cultivators like them. Just as Jiang Chengxian was about to leave, a familiar voice suddenly came from behind him. "Hey, fellow Daoist Jiang." Jiang Chengxian turned around and saw Shu Haichuan and his wife, who he had not seen for more than half a year, behind him. At this moment, the two of them could not hide the joy on their faces. Did something good happen? Jiang Chengxian said with a smile. So it's fellow Daoist Shu and fellow Daoist Mai. Long time no see. That's right, fellow Daoist Jiang. It's been a long time since we last met. Shu Haichuan and his wife smiled and nodded. By the way, fellow Daoist Jiang, what have you been busy with these days? Wait, you broke through to the 9th level of qi refinement. It was only at this moment that Shu Haichuan and his wife seemed to have noticed the change in Jiang Chengxian. A trace of surprise appeared on their faces, and then they cupped their hands. I didn't expect you to have already broken through to the 9th level of qi refinement. There's hope for you to reach the foundation establishment realm in the future. Congratulations. Jiang Chengxian shook his head modestly. I was just lucky. The two of you look like something good has happened. Shu Haichuan and Mai Hongyang looked at each other. Previously, the two of us entered the ruin and were lucky to find something. Fellow Daoist Jiang, if you don't mind, why don't we go to the Spiritual Taste restaurant together after we're done shopping? It was obvious that the couple wanted to befriend Jiang Chengxian. Although Jiang Chengxian did not like such socializing, Shu Haichuan and his wife were after all the first 2 friends he had made since he came to Ganyang City. Even the cave abode he lived in was introduced to him by this couple. It was really not appropriate to reject. Therefore, he nodded. Alright, then let's go to the Spiritual Taste restaurant together later. Chapter 6. Another system mission. The Spiritual Taste restaurant was considered the most visited restaurant by low-level qi refinement cultivators like them in the Ganyang market. When Jiang Chengxian and Shu Haichuan arrived, the restaurant was already filled with independent independent cultivators. They found an empty table by the window and sat down. After asking the shopkeeper for some spirit wine and food, Shu Haichuan looked at Jiang Chengxian and said, "Fellow Daoist Jiang, I think you've heard about the situation in that ruin. How about it? Are you interested in exploring that place with us? Maybe we can find the legendary Foundation establishment opportunity." Shu Haichuan invited Jiang Chengxian again. Originally, he had already given up on inviting Jiang Chengxian, but when he saw that Jiang Chengxian's cultivation had already broken through to the 9th level of Qi refinement, he couldn't help but want to try again. After all, a cultivator at the 9th level of Qi refinement was not to be underestimated. If they could really pull him into their team, it would undoubtedly greatly increase the strength of their team. When they entered the ruin to explore again, with Jiang Chengxian around, it would be more likely for them to come out alive. Unfortunately, Jiang Chengxian was still not interested in Shu Haichuan's invitation. He shook his head with a smile. "I'm sorry, fellow Daoist Shu. I'm afraid I'll disappoint you again this time. I still have something to do. I'm afraid I can't enter the ruin with you." No matter what, they had already invited him twice in a row, so it was not appropriate for him to decline too straightforwardly. However, the couple should be able to understand what he meant. A trace of disappointment appeared on Shu Haichuan and Mai Hongyan's faces. However, perhaps because Jiang Chengxian had already broken through to the 9th level of Qi refinement, Mai Hongyan, who was displeased with Jiang Chengxian rejecting their invitation back then, was not unhappy this time. On the contrary, a smile appeared on her face. "Since fellow Daoist Jiang still has something to do, let's forget about it. However, I believe fellow Daoist Jiang will more or less be interested in what I'm about to say next." Hearing that, Jiang Chengxian's curiosity was instantly piqued. He couldn't help but ask with a smile, "May I know what it is?" "Let my husband tell you." Mai Hongyan smiled and turned to Shu Haichuan. Shu Haichuan nodded and said, "It's about the Independent Cultivators Trade Fair." Independent Cultivators Trade Fair. Yes, Shu Haichuan nodded. 3 months later, in the Dongwon Pavilion of the Ganyar Market, there will be a trade fair specially held for us independent cultivators. At that time, if you have anything you want to buy or trade, you can go to the trade fair to take a look. Perhaps there will be something you want. I see. As expected, he was indeed a little interested in this trade fair. Even if there was nothing he needed to trade or buy, it was still a good thing for him to go and broaden his horizons. At the thought of this, he immediately thanked Shu Haichuan and his wife. "Thank you for telling me this. This meal is on me. I hope the two of you won't snatch it from me." Shu Haichuan and his wife said simultaneously, "Then we won't stand on ceremony, fellow Daoist Jiang." After the three of them bade farewell and left the spiritual taste pavilion, Jiang Chengxian returned to his cave abode. Not long after returning to the cave abode, Jiang Chengxian took out the talisman-making materials he had bought. Otherwise, no matter how much savings he had, it would not be enough to spend. Moreover, he didn't have savings. He washed his hands and calmed his mind. Then, he lit a concentration incense. With that done, Jiang Chengxian began to make talismans. What Jiang Chengxian drew first was a mid-grade level 1 talisman called the Water Sword Talisman. Once it was used, it could turn into a 10-foot-long water sword to attack the enemy. If a mid-level Qi refinement cultivator was not careful, he would most likely be knocked down by it. He had already drawn dozens of such talismans in the past, therefore, it was quite easy to draw this time. About half a day later, Jiang Chengxian put down the talisman brush in his hand. In front of him was a water sword talisman that emitted a faint spiritual qi. Such a talisman could be sold for 7 or 8 spirit stones in the market. If it was in high demand, even if it was sold for 10 spirit stones, many people would still want it. Just as Jiang Chengxian put away the water sword talisman and was about to draw the next talisman, the system's voice suddenly sounded in his mind. "Ding! An achievement mission has been issued. Host, please complete the drawing of the water sword talisman 100 times. Hearing this voice, Jiang Chengxian was immediately excited. The system mission finally came again. However, the mission this time was actually to draw the water sword talisman 100 times. A drawing progress immediately appeared in his retina. Current progress of drawing the water sword talisman, 57%. In other words, in the past, he had already successfully drawn 57 water sword talismans. In that case, he only needed to successfully draw 43 more water sword talismans. However, the talisman-making materials he bought previously would probably not be enough. He might have to go out and buy some more later. Just like that, Jiang Chengxian began his task of drawing the water sword talisman. 2 months passed. Jiang Chengxian spent another 33 spirit stones to buy some talisman-making materials before completing the drawing of the remaining water sword talisman. When the mission progress finally reached 100%, Jiang Chengxian finally heard the system notification again. "Congratulations, host. You have completed drawing the water sword talisman 100 times. You have obtained the ability to draw a level 1 high-grade water shield talisman." In an instant, Jiang Chengxian felt all kinds of scenes and experiences related to drawing the water shield talisman suddenly appear in his mind. During this process, his talisman-making cultivation unknowingly reached high-grade level 1. Moreover, his proficiency also increased. increased. A high-grade level 1 water shield talisman was a defensive talisman. Strictly speaking, it was much more difficult to draw than ordinary high-grade level 1 offensive talismans. Now that Jiang Chengxian already had the ability to draw water shield talisman, theoretically speaking, as long as he could obtain the drawing method of other high-grade level 1 talismans with some time and effort, he was confident that he could master it. Actually, the reward this time was not as good as the previous ones. However, it was helpful to his current situation, especially since there would be an independent cultivators trade fair a month later. At that time, if he could produce some high-grade level 1 water shield talismans, he should be able to earn a lot.